On May 23, 1993, wax, or the discovery of television among the bees, entered the internet, projected by a cable into a wall. Inside that internet, there are no movies there. And so wax, waiting until the last frame enters the wall, then begins the first movie on the internet, to continue forever, for that is how the first movie on the internet begins, at the first frame after the last frame. A true story, and this is that movie, and in reverse. And so, we begin.
As you are aware, the internet is a DVD on a coffee cup. I could show you how that happens, how the handle of the coffee cup becomes the hole in the center of the DVD. How the interior of the coffee cup disappears into the surface of a flat disc as I spin. I am the first movie on the internet. I am inside a DVD on a coffee cup. I could show you how that happens. How the movie appears between two frames, between the front and the back of the DVD disc. I am the first frame after the last frame. I am the movie in the DVD on the coffee cup. I am wax, or the discovery of television among the bees. I am 999 years, 364 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 48 seconds long. And then it was dark, until dawn.
A woman appeared on the screen, then 4 women. A woman appeared on the screen, then 4 women. A woman appeared on the screen, then 4 women. A woman appeared on the screen, then 4 women.
The wax death mask of Reckless, Necklace Marie Antoinette. Above and around here, a helixing line of descending energy, a vocal collection of insinuating nonsense violence that pushes into the top of her head. A larger version of this gyre, the very image of her developing concept of history. She has a lot of time to think now, which is good, since it is cold and it takes a long time to even remember what words used to be. Spins next to her. Most likely, This gyre is just one of the lower gears of a cotton candy machine, itself just one attraction on a long promenade in the eternal festival land that the world of the dead has become. Overpopulation requires lots of entertainment. Marie in the funhouse. Though it might be argued that Marie is a self-resembling image that Ella has built into her own machine, staring through closed lids at everyone out there she is thinking of, and she thinks a lot, about a lot of people, all the time. Since it is after the end of the world for her, time is at least 4x as large as it is for us, or as it is for our friends the blessed living frogs, who sit out on the lawn at night, after the lawnmowers are done and as the dark sky drops. Light water, happy that they can see above the short grass again. A reappearance of the very softest cane oscillation, almost completely white with a soft sign to the side. Vengeance works hard to relax and seduce itself to pleasure, thus the poetry of Cain.
My dead wife was in the hive. My dead wife was in the hive. My dead wife was in the hive. My dead wife was in the hive.
Wax writing, self-erasing and always preserved as odor, an odor that, like light or TV escaping the earth, moves past the stars, even where there is not air, to accidentally descend upon other species in other places, giving them pleasant memories of the inexpressible. Dark high-frequency noise. What you might see if you had very small eyes and could climb on the back of a bee. As you ride through the air, the odd small hairs covering its hard candy shell move back and forth almost intelligently, creating odd noirs that are a sort of song you could sing to if you weren't so scared of heights. Over-the-shoulder shot of a switchboard operator, Ella disguised as someone else. This is a person met long ago in this movie, the woman who jacks one place together to another, in mechanical imitation of the labor-saving device developed not so many years later, the world's first digital computer, aka the telephone company's newly automatic switching machines. Using her hands, Ella alternate here works hard, plugging all unintersected nodes together, for cloud-like, packet-switched communication of voidal thoughts. The Garden of Eden sign still advertising out there in the void, in order to interest and attract all the infinite interested Jacobs living in universes only different in small ways from the one that started this story. Since parallel universes need not be time synchronized, this sign needs to stay in constant operation, as it can never be known when the next customer will wander by.
Her soul had fragmented and become many separate bees. Her soul had fragmented and become many separate bees. Soul had fragmented and become many separate bees. Soul had fragmented and become many separate bees.
Cartoon stars explode inside the soul of the sad person who opened the empty hives. This is a deadly moment, one rehearsed over and over again throughout the film. At this instant of epiphany, the sound of buzzing bees slows and becomes the voices of 100 identical barking dogs, all somehow able to shout in a human language a warning word as a dangerous stranger carrying poisoned meat slowly climbs over the barbed wire fence into the family backyard. Photo of the dead ex-wife of Sultan Abbasid, executor of vengeance. She stares through a veil taken when first she became a bee thuggy. Holding on to the particle roughness of the hive's word and its particle-based pain, a single bee, the visible shape in this black and white movie world of Sultan Abbasid's dead wide, waits with wiggling antennae for the action of the day to start. As always, here is the ex-wife of Sultan Abbasid, staring directly at us, wondering who will make the first move, and who will be left face up or down in the dust, here at the edge of the empire, in the middle of day. Each meeting is violent in such a place. Looking through a window in the roof, down at the floor of a Cretan temple, down at the bees played on the floor, in front of an out-of-frame altar. The bee listens to the unintelligible transmission of prophecy, The priestess echoes proto-words spoken 1,000 years before by a muffled buffalo as it sank into the quicksand at La Brea Tarpets, somewhere near modern-day Los Angeles. Ex-wife of Zoltan Abbasid, not happy Ella, but the sad one before, lost in an auto accident, as her picture appears on her birth certificate, taken before she was born.
She wanted to kill me. She needed a new body. She wanted to kill me. She needed a new body. She wanted to kill me. She needed a new body. Wanted to kill me. She needed a new body.
Cartoon stars rush past us again, running in reverse, with all the separated smaller facets collapsing at center screen. If we just wait a moment, a face will appear. Same face, same place, no time lost. The gliding bird with skull face, a friend of Jacob's from the Temple of Death, flaps in the light under the direction of a tiny twin head set peacefully in middle of its back. You might think these two are watching, waiting for upcoming action. But it might also be true that they are different manifestations of Jacob, older versions of himself visiting the scene, trying to pick up pointers, maybe even say hello, if they can figure out a way to do that anonymously. That happy, attentive, backbone-based pilotheid floats up into position above the winging bird body, suddenly attentive and ready for what must happen next.
My escort made a signal. My escort made a signal. My escort made a signal. My escort made a signal.
Back at the cave, the bees are watching, out of black and whitecomb, probably located somewhere near the underarm of the ape sculpture bodies that stand all night in the light, waiting for their future inhabitants. Each of these little cells stuck to the edge of this frame are eyes that look in slightly different directions. The bees, hiding in the dark, make their picture of the world out of all those fragments. The lost dimension bees, back in the cave, have a quite sentimental image of themselves. Here, we can see them speaking to each other, in an image which shows how they would like to be remembered in the later years. One bee waggles, others pay attention, in a moment so specifically bee-like that you have to guess that something else is actually going on behind the scenes. A rolling frame heads upwards, indicating a fatal loss of synchronization. The mass of bees attached to a comb inside the frame don't seem particularly concerned, as this sort of movement just fits right in with the general force of their vengeance-ward momentum. The frame has lost its lock, and the square world that it holds firmly now spins with increasing speed, pressing the bees within the picture closer together. In a few moments, the pressure of this spin will force all of these little individuals to spill out through the hive's only escape hole, beyond which they will stir the air, a ricocheting confetti of autonomous lost souls, all hoping to find something they don't even know they want. Thick-lined wobulation, soft-edge ropes of endless necessity, sweep through the sea looking for you. Raw fish on your plate at dusk, still quivering. Cross-diagonally structured wobulating oscillator images push out of the image-weaving machine. Unlike most rugs, this one isn't for feet. Even a few dozen stairs would be enough to wear it out. Hidden behind the fibrillating rush of heart muscle fibers, here shown in transparency, is the unbeating heart of a vengeful Cain, who sings soft melodies and sharpens his pencils for the kill. Feedback balls of light spin recursively through the multiplied frame, providing the wax-masked demon Marie Antoinette, sad and young, with a small halo, which she wears with some pride, as if they were new shoes for her vanquished soul.
Multiple faces appeared on Ella's receiver. Multiple faces appeared on Ella's receiver. Multiple faces appeared on Ella's receiver. Multiple faces appeared on Ella's receiver.
With a sudden vertical rush, our frame is pleased to welcome the wax-recorded image of Stooky Bill, J.L. Baird's famous dummy, patient subject of many moving image transmission tests in 1920s London. A real wax-recorded man, not a Stooky Bill, grimaces and winks, emotion in motion. He turns to look at us. These are the first recorded moving electronic images. A woman who claims to be the dead wife of Zoltan Abbasid, who we last saw not too long lived from the floor of the cave. Here she sings a small tune, Anka's "You Are My Destiny," hoping that, karaoke style, you will join her in duet. Only you can hear the voice in your ear, telling you the secret words a second before you sing. At the end, everyone applauds, not knowing that a secret voice, something that does not live but which is inside you, has used your puppet mouth. Ah, memory. Once again, Abbasid's dead ex-wife has no name.
The bees swarm to attack me. The bees swarm to attack me. The bees swarm to attack me. The bees swarm to attack me.
A silent vocalization of the Montbrave code spoken by the dead wife of Zoltan Abbasid motivates the sudden swarming of an indefinite number of bees out of a hive. The interior living volume of the hive is scanned through the single exit slot at the baseboard of the hive. Heartbeats in the background provides universal pressure, compacting the air and making flight difficult.
Zoltan Abbasid never wore protective clothing when I worked with my bees. I, Zoltan Abbasid, never wore protective clothing when I worked with my bees. I, Zoltan Abbasid, never wore protective clothing when I worked with my bees. I, Zoltan Abbasid, never wore protective clothing when I worked with my bees.
We stare across the lawn at a hive which seems to be changing. It wasn't like that the last time we looked. Nearby, a flying saucer lands, and all across the many universes, various gods have gone home for the night, each to watch sports on TV. Some have heavy bets, others have professional interest, and the majority just need to relax. As we watch, without much personal interest, the baseboard is quickly covered with a solid sheet of living bodies. Squinting, so that the light grows liquid and time slows to a drool, we can see how all the twisted bees change from walkers to small helicopters when they get out of the compacting wood body of the human-built hive. They float in slow motion across the tide, small smells each waiting to get to your nose, up it, and into your brain, where they will become images, memory, and maybe even reminders of terrible things once done and once forgotten.
The masses of the dead knew this, and had arrived to murder me, each with the same reason under a different name. The masses of the dead knew this, and had arrived to murder me, each with the same reason under a different name. The masses of the dead knew this, and had arrived to murder me, each with the same reason under a different name. The masses of the dead knew this, and had arrived to murder me, each with the same reason under a different name.
Out of the earth, Jack in the Beanstalk, grows a sculpted power line. After a sudden rush into the light, it suddenly stops at frame right, leaving the sky empty, except for an indefinite number of streaking points, which define small blurred lines of no certain length. These bees or future dead fill the air. Villagers run blurred across a vague flat land, fleeing a set or country infested by Nosferatu. There is a flying plague in the air, which came in by boat in a bunch of hives yesterday, down in the now empty town at the end of the long, yesterday dried river, a floating route that once led to the bloody sea, and now is used as a mud mine by those local porcelain makers still alive and able to make a living. Floating like bees, Dutch villagers, who just a moment before were chasing Nosferatu in a movie by that name, and now have other, not completely clear, necessities on their mind, turn the corner on a country road in extremely fast motion, rushing into this world to get some of the honey from Jacob's broken hive. In the negative jungle below the clear dark sky, small smudge pots burn all day and into the night. It must be admitted that there is some difficulty telling the two apart, to make the smoky haze which is the main export of this region. We are dropping through the trees, fell out of an airplane. The soft branches and solid air have slowed our journey to a simple float, down, down, down. We are awaited by the hungry in the underbrush. Down deep in the garden, where the beetles hide when the day is dark, and where the weeds keep their spare parts, is a small cabin where the dead vacation, and where our kidnappers have now brought us.
They were the dead, and vengeance was their life. They were the dead, and vengeance was their life. The dead, and vengeance was their life. They were the dead, and vengeance was their life.
Stuck to the side of the hive by a vengeful child, this small glued bug looks out hopefully at the sun, waiting for its happy rays to break the chemical bonds which hold many feet to the painted wall. Of course, there may be more sinister reasons why this bee stands, or sits, there staring, but it is important give the void a break once in a while, and guess that evil used to have friends, back before it first tasted meat. It appears that there are several hundred ghosts who always accidentally arrive at events like this dressed in the same costume. This time, everyone has ended looking like the mysterious and unutterable named dead ex-wife of Sultan Abbasid. Waiting at the edge of night, just at the places where the program ends and the commercials are about to begin, sits the bee, a small toggle switch between narrative and space. It waits and watches. In the 1920s, some colonial visionaries dreamed of a time when an airplane could fly from Tokyo to Manchuria powered by an energy source the size of a regular-sized envelope sealed shut and bulging with a 30-page letter sent by someone you'll never see again. Every picture of you is actually someone else, frozen with a pleading stare in reflected light, hoping to get out of that picture. In this world, where even the pictures carry pictures of themselves, there are so many trapped souls that even oxygen is precious. The dead wife of Sultan Abbasid stares at us from the moon, where she is dressed in her best bee costume, limbs chafed by the joints of the shellac-shelled costume. Beneath her shoes, she can feel the wood creaking as the mass of the bees funnel out through the small provided slot at the bottom of the skyscraper, ready to fight hard for their boss and bring victory to their hometown. Cartoon ID image of one of those monstrous mites that destroyed the British black bees, allowing the Mesopotamia bees space to flourish and multiply. Four synchronized weapon end users toss their smoke or gas grenades into an already quite large hazy zone. They were once seen by James Hivemaker, not far from the Battle of Ypres. Their arms are quite tired, but they toss day and night, entranced by the toxic haze and hoping that their hazard pay will make for a nice retirement. Bad synchronization has placed the top half of Fat Boy's atomic bloom at frame bottom, and the clipped face of the explosion at top of the frame. In between is the ground, the glassy place where the sand is green now, after the hard work of the fiery blast. That ground is what the place between pictures is always like, after the light has done its burning work. The frame becomes fixed and unbreakable. Companies go to work with a toxic stream of rushing, time-based chemicals to make the black into light, but even this wash can't break through the green fused glass that breaks into the place where the frames meet.
I was stung again and again. I was stung again and again. I was stung again and again. I was stung again and again.
View from outside a hive, as the bee multitudes continue to swarm out of their computation centers to wage direct war. Bees fill the space between us and the hive. Bees move in extreme slow motion through a haze of air that is void of visible landmarks. In the backyard of a Bassett's house, or a replica in Benson, Oxfordshire. A basset has been strung with strong venom, and his eyes, attached to a neck and below that a body, spin round and round out of focus as the vengeful poison begins to take effect.
When my breathing stopped, I saw James Hivemaker standing over me in his suit. When my breathing stopped, I saw James Hivemaker standing over me in his suit. When my breathing stopped, I saw James Hivemaker standing over me in his suit. When my breathing stopped, I saw James Hivemaker standing over me in his suit.
In the backyard, spinning a basset has come to rest with head sideways on the ground, staring at an innocent overripe apple, which fell down the gravity well not too long before. We are seeing through his unprotected eyes. Believe me, this is the place talked about. I took a bus to get there. A basset, seen as the laughing skull, which bares its teeth to bite. Jacob on the floor of the cave, perhaps looking straight up, or at least resting comfortably, wondering when the lights are going to go out. Flying high are the ambiguous bird watchers. A bird with two skull heads always staring ahead as they flap through dangerous space. Once we saw this three-paneled stone face upstream from Boss Rock, near the Garden of Eden. It stared at a basset, a hideous face from a future past. Now we have arrived at the other end of the lens, the place where that dangerous stare began. We move in closer to the stone-faced king, who appears to move in his sleep. Ozymandias dreams of the flood.
Hivemaker always wore his suit. Hivemaker always wore his suit. Hivemaker always wore his suit. Hivemaker always wore his suit.
Hivemaker the merorman stares out at us. His head, nodding motion, stutters 5 times, as he is only an altered sample of some other image of himself. Perhaps he is only a composite self, one of many others who have suffered various vengeances and returned to this world multiplied, clumped together in quivering composite shapes, like bees clinging to branch in the shape of an accidental fruit.
Was the last thing I ever saw. That was the last thing I ever saw. That was the last thing I ever saw. last thing I ever saw.
The four eyes of Hive Maker stare at a common point of attention, though it does seem possible that each eye sees something different, or that there is a different thought or memory behind each eye. Whatever picture was here just a moment ago has disappeared, sunk beneath the dark substrate of the frame. This is vacuum medium of television.
Now I was Cain. The X shape was my mark. Now I was Cain. The X shape was my mark. Now I was Cain. The X shape was my mark. Now I was Cain. The X shape was my mark.
The Kynoid, staring at us from beneath his protective scar. The tissued fissure ripples, an antenna receiving the exact coordinates of your location. We inch in closer to see what just is beyond the fissure above Cain's eyes. The X shape spins through the void, as if within the hollow planet of Cain's concrete skull. Spun out of the void by the unwinding energy of the X-shaped spin, a hexagonal BTV descends from our full eye to fill the dark with possibilities. Jacob's head, when the BTV was first installed. The installation point is a wandering shape, a whirlpool hole floating across his temples, which have been rendered fluid by the transubstantiation of his blood into B-pixels. A blue hexagonal window in the void prison. Outside, guard bees fly in military patterns through fragmented space.
Together, we traveled back through the planet of television, which was transmitting the dead to the future. Together, we traveled back through the planet of television, which was transmitting the dead to the future. Together, we traveled back through the planet of television, which was transmitting the dead to the future. Together, we traveled back through the planet of television, which was transmitting the dead to the future.
An implosion of static-filled beat fragments, moving towards a coherent noise hexagon, which in turn rushes at our eye through the void. We squint down the compressed tube mapping of the planet of television's black and white interior. A dark void is visible at the far end. A dark eye covers that end of the telescope void, and it watches, looking down our cornea, into the eye fluid, down to the nerve matrix beneath which touches the brain and the past. Inside the planet of television, which appears here in rerun, the counterweight vision cone of central scanning sun swings towards us again, its impatient gears hoping to relieve the weight of the driving spring behind its restless motion. The vacuum draws us in. Blinded by the light of the central sun, we stumble out on the streets of the TV planet. Out of the sky, absolute freak of nature, falls a meteorite, headed right towards the top of our shoes. It is shaped like an out-of-date coin, with the year rubbed off, and only the central image, a quite clear replica of the TV planet, still preserved. The coin meteorite misses our shoes, and hits us right on the top of the head. Or, actually, it passes right through us, as if it were made of neutrinos. Taking a dead and deep breath, filling our lungs with rarest argon, we stop and then step through an arched door, and begin to fall, with no discernible momentum, into a clean, well-lighted place, an unempty void, where an unmysterious sun hangs at a distance, and we are surrounded by our fellow planets. The future of Deseret, or where we will live afterward, the end of the movie, at the beginning of Wax Web. Those bees floating in the undetermined air, like helicopters of chance, or the agents of panspermia. Left to right, top to bottom, the little creatures fly, non-time-based pixels flying in Morse code across all the missing continents, from urban Mu to radioactive Lemuria, all at once, just this one time, for the pleasure of our viewing. A tornado made of living pixels takes dark matter from frame bottom and throws it to frame top. The spontaneous emergence of hallucinatory travel systems in particulate nature. Following the pointer of the violent and directional cyclone behind it, the X shape emerges from bottom frame and heads towards a different void at the upper right. Fluid flows are map markings on the blank paper of the dark void, here in this place where reading and being aren't that much different.
Now I needed a new body, and to get it, we would have to kill. Now I needed a new body, and to get it, we would have to kill. Now I needed a new body, and to get it, we would have to kill. Now I needed a new body, and to get it, we would have to kill.
A grid of 27x31, approximate, many Jacobs descend into a resolution void, approximating the mathematical limits of a mechanical TV images. Sudden articulation, a simple, fluid-formed grid, a moment of potential moire. This is a life that lives as a poem in the language of Cain. Unstable ovoids in the dark, where 1 and 2 aren't that dissimilar. Bands of black and white begin to feather into separating egg shapes. simple utterances in the language of Cain can suddenly give birth to 100 new bodies. Unfortunately, these children as unstable as their parents, and may all die, by the thousands, in the blink of an uncomprehending eye. Cain speaks concisely, as a short burst of parabolic banding. In World War II, the television pioneer John Logie Baird worked to encode secret messages into short burst broadcasts of 10 to 12 TV frames. Momentary programs on hidden frequencies. In the void between Cain's words, which take shape as white blank places not that much different from the separating black that they stain, we can see that expanding eggs are nearing identity, but due to their oscillator style of existence, the egg shapes quickly compress again before finally attempting to beat off as ovoid droplets into the non-space of this beyond world.
Those who had murdered Zoltan Abbasid would be my victims. Those who had murdered Zoltan Abbasid would be my victims. Those who had murdered Zoltan Abbasid would be my victims. Those who had murdered Zoltan Abbasid would be my victims.
"13 arms rotate in sequence on the screen, attached to the top, then to the bottom. Each has its own sleeve space, though packed shoulder to shoulder with its companions.
Then I would be reborn. Be reborn. And I would be reborn. And I would be reborn.
A small rotating crude-faced skin-covered skull with skin crosses the top of the frame, staring with some reluctance out over our shoulders. The gray-skinned skull pauses in its headlong flight, at relative peace, without tangible lateral motion. We may be moving at the same speed as it, haplessly tumbling with no knowledge of the fact, like a mirror image. The rotation spits out invisible sparks that communicate static-sounding innuendo to vengeance-tuned radios throughout the sector.
I had seen God in the planet of television and had faith that this was true. I had seen God in the planet of television and had faith that this was true. I had seen God in the planet of television and had faith that this was true. I had seen God in the planet of television and had faith that this was true.
Like a brain, this small, reverse-faced head is enclosed in a larger skull on a turning neck. This outside face has a different personality, which can be seen by the frown on its teeth. This turning skull staring at the dark television is an outward shape of the planet of television, a sort of intelligent radar antenna waiting for the X-planes to return from their lost missions. An oval face, once a skull, with its skin back in place. The mask complete, it begins to search for a personality to match, and it doesn't have to be a perfect or pretty match, either. So watch out. Don't get too close. Smaller hip bones of a dissected or spontaneously reassembling body. Hips like collars under the chin of the skull, seen a second ago. Knees retracted up, under the chin, into the head, there. Knee pad and leg bones find second use inside the inner ear, as bone sensors, good for picking up and amplifying the heavier rumbles that pulse the airless void. Backbone-attached ribs surrounding air, the bellows of a dissected instrument. Gone are the muscles that lift these bones in inspiration. In this world, when you open a skull, you won't find a brain, just another small skull inside, staring outwards in the direction of your eyes. You might think, the first time you do this, that you have found the very principle of thought, until curiosity forces you to open the second skull, and you discover that it isn't empty, but full with yet another bit of staring bone. So you look up, away from the mirror hole in the top of the skull you hold in your hands, your eyes half closed as you try to find the ceiling somewhere above you. A robot skull screws itself back onto a pre-made rib assembly. Bodies can be made to order in such a fashion to satisfy any demanding soul. While we think and talk among ourselves about this wonder, the new subassembly patiently pants, an imitation of breathing.